And we're back for the X gantry. So to start with, we have 2020 extrusion. I believe this one is 380 millimeters long. Yes, 380 millimeters long. In my build, so my build is smaller than the production kits will be. If you're self-sourcing, the BOM will have probably a longer extrusion. It might be 390 millimeters long. But yeah, so in that range, that's your gantry extrusion. You'll just have one of those. It has, I've loaded it here with a Berserker MGN 12 rail. Thank you to West 3D for their, oh, they're taking it out of the frame. A Berserker rail for the MGM 12, the X rail, and I've had really good success with the Berserker rails before in my other builds, so continuing with that. To help align the rail onto the extrusion, we have these printed alignment guides as well, which I can now remove. They also double as a way to stop the carriage from sliding all over the place, although this is actually not, it won't actually slide off on its own, and that's maybe a good thing. So here we have the XY joint, and again, I've already mounted the left XY joint. The XY joints, the bottom of the XY joints will need some heat set inserts and an M5 nut loaded, and then you're going to have an M5 by 30 millimeter button hex cap screw there, and some M5 by 30 millimeter pins. One of which captures the bearing stack, and the other one has a tooth idler, a 20-tooth tooth idler. And then those are mounted with some M5 socket hex cap screws and my conical washers that I like to use. We do have a bit of a gap here. That's actually deliberate so that we can adjust the play of the gantry. So if we leave these bolts a little bit looser, we can adjust the gantry accordingly so that we can make sure everything is properly de-racked when we're ready to go. So again, looking at the right XY joint, this is going to sit like this with the capture, the area that captures the Y bearing forward. And so we're then going to press fit this top part onto here. This might take me a moment. I'll be back. And so we're back. I had to go hammer it upstairs. So now it is press fit into place properly. These four capture the LM22UU bearing, and then this heat set insert here is used to attach the end stop bump rail. So that's this blue part, and it'll bolt in with an M5 bolt here and an M3 bolt there. So you can just use an M3 by 8 to kind of attach it at that side, and then it'll connect with the M5 bolt that holds the XY joint to the bottom of the X gantry. So let me get those. Start with the M3 by 8. Again, this blue part, which is the end stop bump, if you do not plan on using wired end stops and are going to use sensorless homing, then you don't need this. So you can leave it off your build. But as I mentioned previously, I prefer to use wired end stops wherever possible, and so I'm going to do that. I need, did I get that one already? Yes. Okay, so here is my, here we want an M5 by 30, and this just kind of is used centrally to hold the entire XY joint together. Maybe. It's giving me some grief. I may not have the nut in there quite straight, so it's biting a little bit, but it is getting the job done, so that's good. All right. This might need a bit longer because it's going through both of these. Yeah. Let's get a slightly longer bolt on that. That'll work. So now what I'm doing is preloading some M5 drop-in T-nuts, but I'm not dropping them in. I'm just going to kind of slide them into the rail. There's one. I did the rest of these off camera, but I figured I'd do a couple of them just so you see the process. It's not terribly difficult. Can be a little frustrating though. Sometimes the nuts don't want to align properly. All right, so now we should just be able to carefully you'll notice that there is deliberately a gap here because your belts actually run through that gap. So there is on either side this gap between the edge of the extrusion and the printed plastic part, and there's a little bump on the top and bottom so that you can't push the extrusion into the belt path, which is good. And so now that's together, and I'll just cinch that down. The rail isn't quite centered. The linear rail isn't quite centered on the extrusion. I mean, that's okay because this carrot doesn't really have anywhere to go. It's reached the end there. So, but if you want to, you know, I'm not going to loosen all these bolts just to retighten them again to move over 2 millimeters. But if you want, you can try and center it on the extrusion if that's an issue for you. But yeah, basically that's ready to go. Now, this will effectively just kind of sit like this. Of course, we're not done yet. Pausing the video for 1 second while I fetch some parts. All All right, so once again, what we have here are some printed parts, and these are going to capture the bearing and slot into the XY joint on either side. And then I'll use some M5 or M3 by 25 or 30 millimeters, depending. Mine I think are 30 millimeters, but again, I'm using these conical washers, so you might be able to get away with 25 millimeters. Just follow whatever's in the BOM, unless you're using the conical washers, in which case you'll have to fend for yourself to know the right bolt length, but these are in fact 30 millimeters, and that's what I'm using, so that should work fine. It's going to take a moment, so I'm going to pause the video again, and then I'll be back once I've screwed all these in. And tightening the final bolt on the XY joint. Okay, so we are just a little bit racked. Let's see if we can fix this quick. If not, I might have to fix it off camera. But to adjust for that, we should just loosen the bolts that connect the XY joints to the X rail. And we should have a deflex. That's better. Oh, I see what's happening. My Z-screws at the back are too long. They're fine at the front because I've got this gap, but this is what I get for ordering off-spec parts. I may have to source myself some shorter Z screw motors, lead screw motors. Okay, well, it's a problem for another day. But right now, I can adjust the gantry and kind of pull it tight against the front. If I do that and tighten these down, it should effectively de-rack the gantry. And it absolutely has. Perfect. All right, so there we have it. Everything's working. We're ready to put the top frame extrusions back in place, or in place for the first time. I say back because I disassembled this printer to reassemble it again to record these videos. But yes, we'll be putting the top frame extrusions on next. I'll have to set up my floor space like I did in the initial video in this series to get my stonework pad back in place so I can have a nice solid base on which to square up the top extrusions and then break out my Loctite again. So we'll take care of that in the next video, but for now, thanks for watching.